You're listening to the Morphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Morphology Podcast. Hey, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast and give it a thumbs up if it's deserving. It sure helps me a lot. Anyway, aka Murph here to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Today, meet Tammy from the Pork Belly Ventures. For almost 30 years, Tammy and her brother Pete, along with a top-notch crew, have been providing support to cyclists, supporting them during RAGBRAI and many other Midwest bike rides. Amenities with Pork Belly Ventures are many, from hot showers and bottomless coffee each morning, tent setup and takedown, to fat trailers, which feature a bed and air conditioning. Their support could mean the difference between a complicated, exhausting bike trip and a carefree, athletic adventure. So here's my interview with Tammy. All right, well, on the show today, we have Tammy Pavich. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, yay. How are you, Tammy?
Yay. Good. It's just gorgeous outside. I'm going to get out there in a little while.
Yeah.
And, it's a good day for Pork Belly Ventures because we're just getting lots and lots of phone calls and emails today. People are so excited about RAGBRAI.
Cool. Yeah, we're recording this the beginning of April, and I know I am just giddy about, now that the snow's gone, just thinking about big group rides. I'm vaccinated, and hopefully other people are doing the same. And so the energy, I'm sure, well, you are on the other end, owning a business, which is why you're on the podcast, but it is a pretty exciting time to start thinking about summer.
It really is. I get my second shot tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And it's just a great big check mark to have off your list, just knowing that I have elderly parents and that we can go back to the riding of bicycles together like we used to. And, some people are feeling more confident about coming out for some of the smaller rides, and other people are just like busting out and they want to get back to RAGBRAI. So
right. And I would guess, actually, I know the majority of people that listen to this podcast know what RAGBRAI is. It's the big tour that's across Iowa at the end of July. And the reason you're on the podcast is to talk about your business, which is called Pork Belly Ventures. And of course, I'm going to have you tell the listeners exactly what that's all about. But what I do know is that you and your brother, kind of a bro-sis team, you guys run this company, and I have been lucky enough to stay in your, I think they're called fat trailers, PHAT.
Right.
And it's just a really cool comfort level when you're on a bike that I think if people don't know about you, they sure should. So that's why you're here today. And I guess let's start out by explaining what the heck Pork Belly Ventures does.
Well, you bet. So we started 28 years ago. We fuss around about what year it was. Pete, I had another charter for a little while on RAGBRAI. Pete took it over for 1 year, and then we teamed up and formed Pork Belly Ventures. But it's 28 years ago that we were born sort of on RAGBRAI. And we started out with like one baggage truck, like a rented Penske truck, and about 97 people, I think it was. And since then we've tried to add services and really make it more of a real safety net for people, or a kind of a little bit more luxury is kind of a relative term when you're talking about RAGBRAI, because in your real life you wouldn't call certain things a luxury,
right?
Like just being able to charge your phone. But we've added every year, I would say, something over all those years, and sometimes lots of things in a given year. So now we have 5 portable shower trailers. We never run out of hot water. There's a private dressing area with every stall and a soap dispenser in every stall. The trailers themselves are air-conditioned. We provide the towel. And those trailers are right in our campsite on RAGBRAI. So, that's a real luxury. I remember a heck of a lot of ragbris where I took an ice cold shower,
Right.
just like where you'd almost shriek if you had to wash your hair, because it would be so cold it hurt. So sometimes people will jump in this stall and they'll want the water on the cool side because they're kind of hot and sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have a very hot shower, and that's just one of the amenities that we offer with pork belly these days on ragbri.
Nice. And, you're talking about ragbri specific, so you're a charter for them. And, like you mentioned, you offer cyclists about anything they would imagine. And you're right, it totally is a luxury to get a hot shower or to have air conditioning. As far as like amenities and comfort, you even offer people a bed in certain situations or tent rental.
Yeah.
Like, it's just mind-blowing, for somebody who maybe is doing a tour for the first time, to take that weight off of their shoulders. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about where I'm camping tonight. I just know I have to find the Pork Belly Venture crew or group, or I think you kind of call yourselves a community because you've grown so much.
Yeah, it really is. We call it a lively little village, really,
nice.
within the
Okay.
throng that is ragbri. So usually we're on about 6 acres, and we'll kind of concentrate all the amenities in one area usually, or we try to do that. Phone charging trailers, shower trailers. We even have a kind of a nice restroom trailer, but we will also have kaibos, which is the ragbri lingo for the porta toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, we have yoga at 5:00 each day. We have massage therapists working under a big massage tent, and people can make their appointments in advance or walk up and see if there's an open table for them if they have some aches and pains from the road. We have bike mechanics in camp who are there from certain hours in the afternoon and evening. If you have if your derailleur is making a funny noise, or they can't do like an overhaul, but they can really help with some tweaks and advice and little routine things. And we will have I think I mentioned a full service bike shop in camp. We're working with an Eastern Iowa bike shop. They did it in 2019. They joined us every evening and set up their merchant stuff in camp, and people loved it. They had shoppers all the time. So, you always need something when you're out on a bike ride.
Right,
so,
or you lose something, like,
you
lose a water
something,
bottle or something.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So they have their garments, and, one day it was kind of chilly, and the long sleeve stuff was just gone in a heartbeat from that shop. In the morning, we brew coffee. We have 2 big bun coffee makers, and we worked with the manufacturer to make it pretty sturdy so it can ramble down the road and, stay together and make coffee for the next morning.
Oh, nice.
They're very durable machines, and we use Dunkin' Donuts coffee. We sometimes doctor it with something a little bit darker. And we can brew, I think, 6 gallons every 8 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So we can keep up with everybody's bottomless cup of coffee in the morning.
That is awesome. And do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the fat trailers? Because I think that this is something unique that you may not see on other rides that people do throughout the United States.
Right. It is just, to me, it's the best of both worlds. It's like you get a good night's sleep and in an air-conditioned space that's very pleasant. And at the same time, you don't have to leave the ride atmosphere and kind of break the spell of the ride that you're on. You duck into your room for a respite or a nap, or you get your good night's sleep, and then you're right back outside in the midst of all the other bikers and the great environment of a bike ride. So it's different from going off to a regular hotel room. But it's also, it does have some limitations. I mean, you walk up the steps to the level of a semi-trailer, to the floor level, and you have a little deck. And then when you walk inside, we have a couple different room designs. So whether there's 2 queen beds or like 3 twin bunks with the sofa, they're just 8 by 10 foot rooms with a 9 foot ceiling. And, when you compare them to your master bedroom, well, that feels a little tight. But if you compare them to a tent, it's lovely. It's roomy. You can stand up and change your clothes instead of rolling around in your tent to get your bike shorts on. There's an air conditioner. You can plug in your cell phone and charge it right next to your bed. There are switch lights at the head of each bed. Everything runs on a generator. So there are 5 rooms on each semi-trailer. And the mattresses, the linens, the pillows, everything is just provided for you, extra blankets. And on RAGBRAI, there's quite a waiting list for these rooms. But the nice thing is that we have so many other bike rides now that people can get them on demand. You can sign up for one right away from many of the bike rides that we serve. And they're a lot lower priced than they are on RAGBRAI as well. So it's a really neat way to do any bike ride, but the waiting list for RAGBRAI is quite long. The deal that we make with people who take a fat room on RAGBRAI is that they can decide when to give it up. So if they get it one time, we ask them to make a donation to charity, a $200 donation to charity for the right of first refusal on their room the next year.
Oh, nice.
So this way we help a good cause. We did it for Adaptive Sports Iowa for many years. Then we switched over and we had it, those donations go to support the building of the Founders statue or monument or whatever that is in Waterworks Park that recognizes John Karras and Donald Call. So a lot of folks on our charter help to support that effort. And then this year, I believe, this year we won't do much of that because they all paid it last year. But then next year, I think we're moving toward the local hospitals here toward a program that helps people before they even need to get into the hospital. It helps people who have trouble paying for their medical bills, and it gets them some assistance before they even have to go into the hospital. And we made that connection last year in 2020 when we put our fat rooms and our shower trailers in the hotel parking lots for the healthcare workers.
Oh, great.
To use.
Yeah.
So then we got connected with this hospital, and we decided we wanted to put some support behind their programs for a while.
And I think I want to point out, if people are having trouble imagining what a fat trailer is, it's literally a semi-trailer. So, like, for instance, on RAGBRAI, the cyclist gets up, changes clothes, gets on their bike, and then the semi-trailer literally moves to the next town with your little bunk waiting for you when you get to the next town.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. People call it the bike and barge experience. And the reason for that is you're probably the only people on RAGBRAI who don't have to pack your bags in the morning.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you just leave your stuff. We do a little light housekeeping. We vacuum and straighten things up for people and leave them some water bottles on ice in their rooms. But other than that, you can leave stuff all over your bed if you want to. I mean, you can hang it on the hooks, but you don't have to pack stuff up. You move into your room, and you're just in that room for the whole week, and it just moves with you.
Awesome.
So it is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you can do things like, help out at the hospital, and, those trailers can go anywhere. A quick interruption to give a shout out to Primal Wear. Cycling is their passion and apparel is their craft. So if you are in the market for a new jersey, bibs, mask, or any cycling apparel, go to primalwear.com and use code PRIMALMURPH to get 20% off your purchase. Yes, 20%. Now back to the show. Which brings me to my next question. I know that your services go beyond Iowa, but can you tell the listeners a little bit about other tours or rides or charter opportunities beyond RAGBRAI?
Sure. Let's see. I'm going to grab my calendar, but the first ones that I would want to mention are the ones that we have are sponsoring ourselves. We just, for a long time, we were just on RAGBRAI, and then other tour directors across the Midwest said, well, what about some showers on our ride, or you can bring tents or fat rooms out to our ride. So we started doing rides like Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Freewheel. We will have fat rooms on that one. We do the Big Bam rides in Missouri, so Big Bam and Big Bam on the Katy Trail, and we have all of our services on those rides and our showers. And Nebraska, we have we are on Bran, the bike ride across Nebraska, which is kind of the long-running classic ride that is owned and operated by the Omaha Peddlers Bicycle Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Tour de Nebraska, which is just some nice friends of ours. Kim and Charlie Schilling own that ride, and they do a 5-day in Nebraska, and they always find ways to just make it really interesting. They'll sometimes stay two nights in one place, and like offer an option to canoe the Niobrara River out in Valentine, Nebraska. They just jazz it up. They really, and they hold the numbers to, I think, around something less than 500 people, I think, on that ride. But let's see, we're talking to Kansas. I think the folks at Bicycle Across Kansas are gonna. They canceled for this year, but we had everything in place, and then they canceled. So I think we'll be in Kansas as well. And Minnesota, bicycling around Minnesota was another one that canceled this year, but that's a 250-person ride or so, and we'll be back there. There's some smaller gravel events that we're doing now too, but so those are the ones that we, have served with whatever services the ride director asks for. But then we have our own rides. Those are, some of them are in Iowa. The first one this year is Birds and Bees Bike Ride.
Yeah.
And it's right here on the Wabash Trace, and I want you to ride that one, Kathy.
I am registered.
Well, awesome. I'm behind on email.
And I actually have a couple of friends that have now registered as well. So I am so excited to see what the Birds and the Bees Bike Ride is all about.
Well, this is the first annual, and the little towns along the way are thrilled about it. That's been a lot of my time the last week or so, is working with those towns. Malvern, Iowa is full of public art. They have a mural artist in that town that you would not believe. They have another guy who does sculptural trees, and they're metal trees. There's one on practically every corner. One is the bike tree, which has a bicycle growing from the end of every branch. It's just amazing. And they have a church, a very old church that they have turned into an art gallery, and it's also an Airbnb on one level, and an art gallery on the other level. And then even the restaurants are just full of original local art. My favorite, I haven't eaten in all the restaurants, but the Classic Cafe, we're working with Alicia, who owns that cafe. She has artisanal glass. That's a glass blower made all the light fixtures in the cafe. It's just the neatest vibe inside this restaurant. It's an older building, and they can just feel so homey and so cool. And she is an excellent chef, and so they're going to be working with us on food for Birds and Bees. Awesome. And then we'll head on down to Shenandoah, and we've got a good old friend down there who worked with us on developing the Wabash Trace way back in the day, and he owns the Depot Deli in Shenandoah, which is also a brewery. And so he's got a lot going on. He's going to vend for us in camp, and we're going to be sending people about 6 blocks over to the deli to have dinner as well. And I'm sure we'll work with some other businesses in that town too. But we have beautiful campsites in both places. We're going to be able to roast marshmallows in the fire pits in Malvern. We've hired the Burney sisters to play on stage in Shenandoah on that Saturday night. So it's just it's going to be a small ride. I think it's going to be probably less than 150 people on a beautiful limestone chip trail that's in very good condition. It's just going to feel very intimate, I think. We're delighted that you're going to be there. We know that Dieter and Ann and Andrea from Ragbri are going to be riding it on Friday. And they would love to visit with folks on the Birds and Bees. I just, had friends reach out to me from Virginia. They don't want to ride a large ride this year, but they're driving all the way from Virginia to do Birds and Bees with us.
Oh, wow.
Another call from a guy who rides a recumbent e-trike from Anaheim, California, and he's bringing that e-trike out to the Wabash Trace to ride Birds and Bees. And, people from South Carolina and Mississippi, just folks who've been with us for years, Michigan, Colorado, a lot of Colorado folks who are just excited to do this ride. And so we're thrilled. It's going to feel like Old Home Week.
Well, and it's the best, I was going to say of three worlds, but it might be multiple because the Wabash Trace is a beautiful trail just to be part of. Plus, you've got like great small town Iowa, like you're going to some amazing towns. Plus, you've got all the amenities that you offer any other time. So people already know what to expect from your company, which is cool. And then now you've got like the Ragbri officials that are going to be popping in for a day of riding. So you've got like, this is going to be a fun ride.
It is. It is. We invited Dieter and Ann to come out and ride the Wabash back in November. And I said in an email update recently that Dieter, he just fell in love with Malvern, Iowa. He just couldn't say enough about the town and how welcoming it is to cyclists. There's bike art all over the place, and you just feel like this is a town that's made for bikers on a gorgeous trail. I'm just pleased as punch that he's going to come out and ride with us again.
Yeah, and I can't recall if we mentioned it, but it is towards the end of May 21st, I believe, and if you are listening to it and you're by your computer, pop in pkbelly.com and you can find out all of the events that they are offering in 2021.
You bet. Yeah, Birds and Bees should be at the top of the right-hand column called Our Rides.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's podcast is sponsored by Lizard Lips Lip Balm. These great lip balms contain natural ingredients, come in a variety of flavors, and you can choose certified organic or balms with sun protection. Check it out at lizardlips.net. Now back to the show. And aren't you part of a ride in, is it the Mickelson Trail?
Yeah, that's a new one this year, too.
Okay.
That one blew us away. We drove to South Dakota and planned it. We're going to start in Deadwood. This is a trail with a fascinating history. The governor of South Dakota at the time was George Mickelson, and he was a big proponent of the trail. And while he was trying to develop it over the course of a 10-year period, he set this 10-year goal. He was killed in a plane crash. I think it was in eastern Iowa, actually.
Oh, wow.
Very tragic. And someone who had been an opponent of the trail took over in the office of governor and changed his mind. And in honor of George Mickelson, he sped up that timeline to 5 years to finish developing the Mickelson Trail. And it is now one of the most beautiful rail trails in the country. It has like these high bridges, the ponderosa pines in that area. It's a little bit more challenging than our Wabash Trace here in Iowa in terms of some ups and downs or sustained uphills. But we're going to have a refreshment stop on the route. We've encouraged people to come and bring e-bikes if that helps them handle some of the climbing. The days are not terribly long. I think the longest day is all downhill. The last day is 44 miles downhill. But the other days are, I think, between 15 miles and I want to say 33 miles or something like that. But the neat thing about this one, and the first one sold out. Of course, the June ride sold out within a matter of a couple of days. So we have another one now in August 15th to the 19th.
Oh, nice.
And that one's over half full, but there are still spaces available on that one. But the neat thing about this one is we're doing excursions in the afternoon because, you can ride a short day and then at 2:30 board the 1880 train, which is an old steam engine train that'll take you through the Black Hills to Keystone, where you can kind of shop around, eat some chocolate or have a couple beers, and then come back to Hill City that day. The other excursion is in Custer, where you can board a coach at 12:30. After a 15-mile day, you should be able to get your shower and board a coach by 12:30, and then go see Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, and Custer State Park. So that's like a 4 or 5 hour excursion in that afternoon, and then back to camp. And we're very close to restaurants on all of these, in all of our campsites.
Wow.
So.
I'm looking right now. That one's called the Black Hills 100?
Yep.
Okay.
It's about 100 miles, and we're having about 100 people on each one of those tours.
Wow. That sounds pretty darn cool.
Yeah, we just are surprised. I mean, there's just a hunger, I think, right now for people to just get out and do fun bike rides.
Yeah.
But that particular one, there are a lot of people who haven't seen Mount Rushmore in person or seen Crazy Horse in person, and so they were just thinking, well, I can be fully supported on the Mickelson Trail and see the great faces of South Dakota.
Right. And have all the amenities of Pork Belly
Yep.
Ventures.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that, Kathy.
So you've been, I'm hearing a lot of different states that you've been around the Midwest. Like off the top of your head, any interesting stories about either riders or events or weather mishaps that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, the ride that we started last year was the Missouri Double Cross.
Mm.
And that is on the Katy Trail in Missouri. That one actually happened because Joe Gutman from Louisville, Kentucky, who's been with us on Pork Belly Ventures on RAGBRAI longer than probably anyone else. And Joe is just a dear friend, and he said, we can't bear the idea that RAGBRAI has been canceled, so would you guys please come down and support me and my friends on the Katy Trail? And so we ended up developing a ride around Joe and his friends.
Nice.
And had about, we had 30 people ride it one direction, 30 people ride it back the other way. The Katy goes all the way across the state of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. And then 20 other people did both ways. So we had 50 people at any given time in our campsite. It was tiny. I guess the story of that is that it was such an eye-opener for us. Kathy, what it did was we've been a large RAGBRAI charter for a long time, mm-hmm. where we're really working hard to take care of people, and it's hard to find time to have a relaxed conversation with people.
Yeah.
And on the Missouri Double Cross, we just had time to visit and get to know darn near everybody that was with us, and we loved that experience. And that's why this year we've created more of those kinds of rides, mm-hmm. Because we like being on them, and we like being able to visit with people. We like providing that kind of experience too.
Mm-hmm. And
it reminds us of when we were small on RAGBRAI.
From a rider perspective, it's just nice to have somebody else do all the pre-planning. Like for instance, your South Dakota trip. Like, I really want to do the Mickelson Trail, but man, doing all the research and figuring out all the different things that go along with a bike tour, it's pretty nice to go online, click register, and now somebody else has kind of already done the research for me. I can just go enjoy the ride and know that cool stuff is going to happen.
That is really true.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that, which I'm very proud of, is the crew that works for us. And somehow we just managed to luck into these wonderful, customer service-oriented, friendly, cheerful, capable people.
Nice.
Who love helping folks have a fun vacation,
mm-hmm.
and who take their questions seriously. And if they ask where something is, they make sure that they find it. It's the crew on these rides too, mm-hmm. that really, really makes the difference. And I don't, I went on RAGBRAI my first time, and I had a great experience with a very tiny group of people that was taking folks from outside their group. And one thing I noticed was that there was kind of an in crowd, and there was kind of the rest. And when Pete and I started Pork Belly Ventures, we said that is not going to be our charter. On our charter, everybody gets the gold card. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're sleeping in your own tent or if you're sleeping in our rental tent or if you have a fat room. We want everybody who comes with us to have a wonderful time, and that whole philosophy translates to these smaller rides too. Mm-hmm. And our crew buys into it, and that's what we're really we're just so grateful for.
And I'm glad that you gave a shout out to your crew, because over the years of RAGBRAI and getting to know RAGBRAI staff, I really like a complete mind change on, 20 years ago I would do RAGBRAI, I would be with my team bus and wouldn't think anything about all the organization that goes in behind the scenes. And so I'm thinking of your crew, like, they're taking tents down, they're putting tents up, they're making, like you said, gallons of coffee at a time. I mean, I know I'm not hitting on all the things that they do, but it's mind-blowing to realize how much work goes into keeping cyclists happy and moving forward.
Yeah, and not to play favorites, but Dave Kennedy is a really good example of that. Everybody who's been with us knows Dave. And on Ragbri, Dave, and on all the rides, really, Dave is the guy who sleeps on the coffee trailer or on our little cube van and wakes up around 4 and gets the generator going and starts brewing coffee about 4:30.
Wow.
Or actually, he'll be ready to serve by 4:30. He's raising up the awnings on the coffee trailer by 4:30 in the morning for those really early risers. And boy, it's he's got a cot that kind of runs down the middle of this coffee trailer, and somehow he gets up and folds that thing up and gets the kitchen going in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you know, he always has a smile and a good morning for every person who comes up to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
He is just he's really kind of a phenomenon.
Wow. And you need that because most people who haven't had their coffee yet are probably not the same demeanor as they are after their coffee.
We have so many jokes about that, you know, about how you crawl out of your tent with your puffy eyes and your bed head, and you kind of strap on your little headlight thing,
Yeah.
you know, and try to get yourself to the coffee trailer, and then once you smell that good cup of joe and get it going in your veins, why, you know, you kind of feel like you can handle the rest of your morning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so we've kind of talked about a few of the rides, and we'll talk about, or we'll tell the listeners your website in a minute here. But do you feel like, you know, I know COVID is top of mind for a business like yours, but do you feel like 2021 has good momentum started?
Well, we sure do. You know, like I will have my second shot tomorrow, and you know, it seems like vaccinations are opening up to people, of adults at least, of all ages in most places, and it's only April 2nd. So yeah, I mean, Pete is the math guy. I would never even try to do any computations or anything, but yeah, he's kind of thinking about how, you know, we really should be in a good place every week that goes by. And on the smaller rides, we feel like, you know, people who have their vaccinations could come out and just kind of relax. There might be moments when you go inside of a restaurant where you feel like you should put on a mask because, you know, that's the protocol, or go into a little grocery store on Birds and Bees or something like that. But the other part of it, Kathy, is we just have a lot of confidence in the outdoors when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
We've read studies. I mean, I've really made it my business to try to research and do studies. One that I read, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, I should preface that, but I read something that said that even athletes who play combat sports against each other outside, like football players, they might catch COVID from another player, but they're catching it at the team banquet the night before, not during the game that they're playing. So, you know, there were some other studies that talked about just the dilution that happens outside. And having been on a couple of bike rides last year when most everything was canceled, you know, we just had a really positive experience with the outdoor events. And our massage therapists naturally would put on a mask and ask their client, the person on their table, to wear a mask if they were face up on the table. But then, you know, when they turned over and put their face in the cradle, they could remove their mask then. But the therapist kept her mask on the whole time that she was working on people. So, you know, there were ways that we could take some precautions and yet have a real sense of normalcy much of the time.
Yeah, that's
while
awesome.
We were together.
And I think it's obvious, at least, you know, probably from the back end on your end, to see people registering for rides. But like I call it bike therapy, where, you know, if people have been inside for the most part for the last year and they're starting to feel like, okay, I've got to get outside and get some fresh air, and I've got to be around people, even if it's outside or at a socially distanced space. Like, it's time. Like, the mental health is winning.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been on a podcast before, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of the ones that I've been listening to over the last year, while I cook or whatever, are driving in the car. They're about COVID. I mean, that's on everybody's mind. And what is the mental health effect? How's everybody dealing with it? You know, and you know, gratefully, I have, you know, taken a lot of precautions and not been not been kept from seeing family members.
Mm-hmm.
We've all kind of agreed that we'll take certain precautions, and so we've been able to see our parents. Now my 88 and 82-year-old dad and mom are fully vaccinated, so no more worries there. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel as isolated as some of the people that I email with, who are our RAGBRAI clients or our bike ride clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mental health, when you think about your mental health, just from changing your life so much and restricting your comings and goings, and then subtract the family piece of it too, and
Mm-hmm.
being in the presence of your family members. And it's, I just feel like as we turn this page and as we start to come back to what we love, which is bike rides, that it's just going to be great medicine for people after
Yes.
going through this mental health challenge over the past however many months, 14 months or something.
Yes, so well said. And in knowing that so many bike rides, probably most of them were canceled last year, so it's kind of that, I gotta get out and see my biking friends. I just can't wait.
That's really it. And that's what I think, and all the rides are going to be special this year. But when people lost RAGBRAI last year, I mean, I don't want to be a big drama queen about it or overstate it, but I mean, it really left a big hole in people's summer.
Yep.
I mean, the ones who were looking forward to it for the first time, but even more so the people who it was just a fixture in their July every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of that, I really think that RAGBRAI 2021 is going to be a very, very special one, where this is one people are going to tell stories about, where they finally were able to come back together and celebrate this tradition that they've loved for so long.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be one of them, actually.
I will too.
Yeah. Well, tell the listeners again your website and if you're on social media so that they can go find out more about Pork Belly Ventures.
Yes, pkbelly.com, pkbelly.com. And we've redone the website. We used our time last year when we had very little to do. We reorganized the whole website. So RAGBRAI is like the second column from the left. It's just click on that, and you'll find tabs at the bottom all about RAGBRAI.
Mm-hmm.
Our rides are on the far left, and you'll find Birds and Bees and the Black Hills 100 and the Missouri Double Cross and others there. And then on social media, I'm not a great social media person. I'm a Facebook person, but my niece, Pete's daughter, Gracie, is now in charge of our social media.
All
and Gracie and I
right.
work together on this, and she's a college freshman. And so Gracie and I are always putting our heads together about what to do next on Facebook. We would love suggestions, folks.
Okay,
If there's
yeah.
anybody out there. But what we've been doing is telling people about the shower experience of Pork Belly Ventures or the coffee experience of Pork Belly Ventures. And I think the next one will be the phone charging. We'll show the phone charging trailers that we have, and how you can keep your device fully charged with you on RAGBRAI. And then we've been introducing our crew slowly, gradually introducing our crew with either photos or videos or something. And then, of course, talking about all of our events. We'll continue to do that. And also, we try to inject a little humor in the Facebook page, too. So we have a goofy glossary of pork terms. And so these are silly words that you would use with Pork Belly Ventures on RAGBRAI. And so slowly and surely we're popping a pork glossary term out there every once in a while, just as a joke to kind of give people a chuckle.
That's awesome. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and talking about Pork Belly Ventures. And I am looking forward to seeing you next month in May.
I can't believe it's next month already, Kathy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'll get to see you, too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Pete and I really appreciate being able to talk about pork belly.
You bet. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, too. Bye-bye.
Well, listeners, that's it for this week. As always, thanks for tuning in to listen. And a big thanks to Tammy for taking the time to be on the show. Tammy, Pete, and crew are doing it right. Be sure to check out the Pork Belly Ventures website at pkbelly.com for more information on all they offer as well as bike rides they support. And if you are listening to this episode before May of 2021, register to ride the Birds and Bees ride in Council Bluffs and you can ride with me. If you click on the Murphology Outfitters tab on my website, you can find a list of all the rides I'll be on this year. And of course, if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting, email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com. Visit my Instagram page for daily entertainment and check out the Murphology YouTube page to find videos of some of the places I go with my bike. I'll leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Mark Cavendish. To me, it doesn't matter whether it's raining or the sun is shining or whatever. As long as I'm riding a bike, I know I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Think about it.